What is going on, everybody? This is Everything Nerdy. I'm bringing back another video. I got the webcam. Boom. Don't mind my background. I'm gonna be doing a. As I hit my mic, I'm gonna be doing a review on Wallpaper Engine. It's only $3 on Steam. Later down the road, so if you aren't subscribed, subscribe now. The I would be popping up if you're watching this at a later date, and it is out. So click that I. But you can go through, and here's all the wallpapers I have. Yeah, big surprise. Some of them make noise, some of them don't. You can even browse through, even though Steam's being a butt. I have to cancel it and restart it. But you can go and go through it. That's not what this is about. This is about, as you saw that video, which I clicked, and the eye that should be popping out right now, the new computer, yeah, that's what it's titled. Well, it's an R5 1500X, and it's overclockable. It has 16 gigs of DDR4, clocked at 2666 megahertz, which is overclocked from the base speed of 2133. So that's gonna give you increased performance of RAM. But I also overclocked the CPU since I have a Deepcool 120 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. It's overclocked to 3.9 gigahertz, which is a 200 megahertz over the turbo, which is a 3.5 stock with a turbo of 3.7. I have it, like I said, I have it overclocked to 3.9, and to show you if it's not gonna show up, but to verify that I do have it overclocked. Yeah, it's not, because it's just I'm idling. But let's see if it works. Yes. So to show you that everything it is overclocked is right here. It's clocked at 3900 megahertz, and I have it set to 3.1 or 3.1. I have it set to 1.325 on the voltage, which you can actually overclock it anywhere between 1.3 to 1.4 safely. AMD doesn't want you to go anything above 1.4. But I found a stable overclock at 1.325, and it works for me. And I don't have any any heat problems, heat soak. It stays there comfortably at 64 degrees Celsius, which is pretty good, even though it's a 4-core 8-thread, which is basically an 8-core processor, because the threads split the cores into two. So if you see a thread computer, it splits it into two, even though it's not a true 8-core. That's why you can see on here there are 8 CPUs. And certain games take advantage of that, which is really, really, really good. And I've noticed an increased performance on on games, and you can see my games list is pretty extensive. I have a lot of games in here that I'm going to be doing a throwback Thursday to, maybe a throwback Tuesday as well. Like Brink, I grew up on it with on 360, so I'm going to be doing a let's play of that. So if you're not subscribed, subscribed, and when that video comes out, click that bell notification so you'll know and stay up to date when I post that let's play. But this is going to be a guide on how to overclock and achieve those types of performance that I'm getting right now. Your mileage may vary depending on what if you won the Silicon Lottery or not. I just happened to get very, very lucky and win the Silicon Lottery. I didn't get to achieve 4.4 gigahertz, no matter what voltage, the 1.4, stuff like that. So that's just luck of the draw. And I didn't want to induce too much heat for that little 120 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. So there's that. So like I said, what I found for my settings may not work for you. Tweak with the settings. Right now, I'll have all the stuff that you're going to need down in the description. There's one thing I don't have that I have to re-download on here, and that is the Cinebench, which what you want to do first is you want to do a baseline, which I could do real quick. Baseline, and I'll just do the turbo right now and click apply, and we'll do that, and we'll do a baseline of it now, and I'll show you the increased performance. And so once that's going, you want to, oh yeah, of course it's not, because I'm going to have to extract it, because Windows is a turd. But once you've done a baseline and you know the performance, this is not a true instance in like true 100% apples to apples. That's where IDA 64 is going to come into play, because that you want to at least go for 8 to 9 hours to see if it's stable. If it crashes, depending on your motherboard, it should automatically default to the stock and turbo speeds, which I've had a couple of times when I was trying to overclock it. Which happens normally. It should happen with now motherboards becoming very, very good. It should automatically do that. But like I said, I have a Gigabyte motherboard with a Gigabyte graphics card that really has nothing to do with it. But with R54, you can test your graphics card if you did want to overclock it as well. That's why I also use Heaven Benchmark as well. But we're not talking about graphics cards. That will be a separate video later down the road. Right now we're just focusing on the CPU. So what you want to do is click CPU and run it, and it should just go through a little cycle, and it's going to take a while depending on your computer, and mine doesn't. Like I said, with it being stock and turbo, it's going to take a little while, and with me having that overclocked, and this is what you get on stock. Yeah, that's not really that good. Like 667. So what you want to do is click save at the benchmark score, and I already have the preset, but I'm going to talk you through on how to do your own preset. So when you do this game, this is very yeah, and it's going to tell you that AMD doesn't fully recommend overclocking and all that good stuff. And if you do, you break your computer, they're not responsible for it. So the C right here, and you see it down at the bottom, I don't know why I'm pointing at my screen, you can't see it, but down at the bottom is going to say C. That is your current. So this is what the CPU is doing right now. So right now it's, for some particular reason, turboing up to 3.6, even though it's just idling. I don't know why. But yeah, it's current is what it's currently being read right now. And these are your 4 cores, and you're thinking, wait, you said it was an 8 thread. Threading, like you said, splits the cores, doubles the workload to give you double the performance. So there's technically 4 logical cores with 4 physical cores with 4 logical cores. And so, and I'll have more into hyperthreading in a different video as well. But these are going to fluctuate. It's basically your task manager. So what you want to do is you're going to want to click a 1 through 2. Since I already have my overclock as 1, I'm going to start at number 2, just for the sake of this purpose. So what you want to do is you want to immediately go to your 3.7, which is the turbo on it, and then I would start at 1.3 volts and see if that works. If it does, you're perfectly fine. What you want to do is save the profile, so when you come back to this, it will automatically save it into the BIOS, because these are getting written to the BIOS, so you don't have to go in the settings. This is just super quick and easy. You could do this on the fly any single time. What you then want to do is apply, and now it's going to immediately, you can see the peak speed is locked at 3.7. It's not going to fluctuate. It's not going to go up and down. And to verify, it is 3.7. It's going to fluctuate, but on here it's not. And to double check, you also want to go into CPZ and hardware monitor. And this is also very good, especially when you're running IDA 64. So to testify, yeah, we are running at 1.3 volts, and we are clocked at 3.7. So it's going to say 3.6, but it's how Windows fluctuates. It's actually 3.7. It's just reading things at a different thing, because that's just Windows. So then what you want to do is then, to make sure, as a quick and easy, to make sure that works, you then want to go, oh yeah. So there's one thing I forgot to mention. I accidentally clicked cores disabled. Click 0 cores disabled, that means it basically makes you a 2-core 4-thread, which is basically an i3. And if you want to do that for to simulate an i3, you could. I fully don't recommend doing that, unless you really want to, but it's not worth it. So then we're going to go back and double check, and our score should have gone up a little bit. So remember how we had 667? We're going to do it one more time. Alright, and it went down, but that's because you want to run it a couple of times for it to kick the overclock in. So, and it sometimes it doesn't want to do it immediately, so sometimes you have to restart your computer and then do it from there. But for this, we're just gonna not save it. So you just want to gradually increase the voltage until you're gradually increase your speed, and then if it crashes, then gradually increase your voltage and just keep running that until it is. And then once you find if that passes through all of the stages, then you're gonna run IDA 64 for about 8 to 9 hours. And then if that works, then you're good. You just overclocked your CPU. But since or you could try and copy my settings to see if you won the Silicon Lottery. For you, it depends on. It also depends on the voltage. Also depends on, because the more voltage you have, the more heat you're going to be generating. So you also, even though this is a 65 watt TDP, you also want to make sure that you have a very sufficient cooler. The stock coolers that come with the R5 1500X and the 1400 aren't going to be sufficient, so you either want to get a Cooler Master 212 Evo or an all-in-one by either Corsair, Kraken, which is the NCXT line, Deep Cool, stuff like that, to be on the safe side. You can get away with the 212 Evo, but you won't be able to push it to like the good limits. You'll be pushing it around 70-80 degrees Celsius, which is 20 degrees more than what I have, and the thermal throttling is at 95, so as long as you don't hit that 95 Celsius, you'll be perfectly fine. And so if you thermal throttle on your overclock, basically it's useless. Your overclock, you should just keep with the stocks. So you always want to just keep testing, and if it crashes, it should automatically default. If it doesn't, go into your BIOS and just click it at 3.5 and then open this up, and obviously I'd show you how to do in the BIOS, but that's a lot more complicated, and I could show you, but with this you just have to just keep doing it. And like I said, the Ryzen Master should, and the BIOS, depending on what you have, should automatically default it back to 3.5 if the overclock fails. So make sure that just keep cranking up the speed until your voltage is not working, then slowly increase the voltage each time until you finally find a stable voltage. And you always want to keep checking, like I said, with hardware monitor and CPU-Z. I'm running at 1.32 volts. Even though it says 1.125, it actually rounds it up to 1.32. And I'm overclocked. If you see the core speed right here, it's clocked at 3.9. And with me doing those 2 tests plus being overclocked, I'm at 4350. And then to verify that it's also been working, you're going to use your hardware monitor, and this would also show you as well. So here's your packages, which we're not really going to look at. You just want this package right here, because these are your watts, how much is pulling from the power supply. I have a 600 watt power supply. So it can tell you all of my cores are taking a total of 14 watts from that power supply. CPU's utilization, the clocks, yada yada yada. But you mostly want to look at this right here, your package, which is your value. So it's clocked at 43, which is right on. Minimum was 43 and the maximum was 43, because I haven't really ran this, so it hasn't really jumped up. If this hits, like I said, 95, which is the thermal junction, you then want the overclock is useless. So you just always want hardware monitor and CPU-Z running in the background while you're running IDA 64. IDA 64 is automatically going to put your CPU at 100%. So while that is running, you would have to be off your computer for 8 to 9 hours. And so that's going to be a drawback. But with the new i64, once you download it to test it, the new i64 is very, very weird. What you want to do is you're going to go to this home page. You're then going to go to, where is it? Right here. You're going to go to System Stability under Tools. And then what you only want to do is check CPU, your FPU, and your cache. This has 16 megabytes of L3 cache with 24 megabytes of L2 cache. So this is the one we're gonna do, and this is a free to play. This is a free trial that you're gonna get 30 days for free, and you're just gonna start it, and you can see right here CPU usage, boom, automatic 100%. If I go to top task manager, boom, automatic 100% is clocked at 3.9. Verified it's clocked at 3.9. We're going to then go to where's my hardware monitor? Boom. It's jumping up to 56, which is equivalent to what it says right here in Radeon Master. And then go to CPU-Z, and it's clocked at 3.9. Everything should work. And like I said, I've done this. I have had this running in the background while I was at work for 10 hours. And it didn't crash when I came home. It was still perfectly fine. So I know what I have right here. You could try these settings and start it at 3.7. You keep the voltage and start at 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. And if you're lucky enough, you might want to try 4 gigahertz. If that doesn't work and you happen to get 4 gigahertz, I'd fully recommend either 1.35 volts and see if you get 4 gigahertz, or 1.4 volts and try and get 4 gigahertz if you really want to push the 4 gigahertz. But right now I'm happy with 3.9 because I told you I couldn't really get 4 gigahertz even with a 1.4 volts. And I was dumping a lot of heat for this little 120 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. And with water, it takes a lot for water to dissipate the heat. So I didn't want to dump too much and fry my system. So, like I said, I'm not dumping that much heat. I'm only 65 Celsius under load with this overclock. So it's really good. So try with the settings that you have and see and try and mess with them. This is Everything Nerdy signing off, and I hope this guide was very useful to you. If not, then I'll try and do another touch over it when I'm overclocking the GPU. Till then, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.